recognize that we can choose our attitude, and choosing gratitude is a really, really powerful way of saying, I'm going to do things really differently.
So welcome to Unleashed Learning TV and Unleashed Learning Radio for our podcast listeners. Now, I'm guessing you already know about the benefits gratitude can have on your well-being, but how can you be grateful if you're feeling resentful? To answer this question, we've brought back Dr. Carrie Howes to Unleashed Learning TV. Now, she's a leader in the field of gratitude and education. She spent over 25 years researching, teaching, and practicing gratitude. She's a keynote speaker, leader in the field, and she's also just a great human being. Now, we featured her first book, Gratitude and Education, A Radical View, in a previous Unleashed Learning TV episode, and she's back with her latest book, Untangling You, How Can I Be Grateful When I Feel So Resentful? So welcome back to Unleashed Learning TV.
Thank you very much, William.
In person.
Thank you. Yeah, it's so good.
Well, congratulations on your new book.
Thank you.
And I wanted to interview you in person because, as you know, what we do at Unleashed Learning is we work with businesses, schools, and organizations to teach them the system that makes learning stick for everyone. And part of that system is who the educator is. And I think your work with gratitude will really help us think about who we are as educators in the important work that we're doing. So welcome.
Thank you.
So let me start with, when we interviewed you many years ago, I remember me asking you this question, but I'm gonna ask you again. Why are you so passionate about the topic of gratitude, especially in teaching and learning spaces?
Well, the simple answer is there's not enough of it. And another answer is that it can really help with student engagement, and it's a really important key that if students aren't engaged, often it's because they're in the opposite state of gratitude, and that they're often not conscious of the way they bring their being to their learning and the impact that has. And gratitude can go a really long way to help them be more engaged. And for educators, it's similar kind of thing where if they come into the classroom full of resentment, which is the opposite of gratitude, the impact on their teaching won't be nearly as engaging. So gratitude's an important key for all of that.
It's so, right now, everyone just wants to talk about strategies, but what you're saying is maybe who we are is part of the strategy.
Yeah, that's my whole philosophy. Yeah. We teach who we are, as Parker J.
Palmer.
Yes.
That's why I adore you so much.
Come back
That's
to
right.
Parker Palmer's statement. And I think you're right. I think we're scrambling for strategies to help us reorientate ourselves, but actually, if we've missed the being aspects, like who we are, then those strategies don't take hold as much, do they?
So true. It's so true. We need a revolution of who we are in this profession right now, I think.
Yes. And I think the whole thing about gratitude really fits into the learning aspect, because gratitude's about giving and receiving and giving and receiving. And we often position the educator as the person who's the giver and the student who's the receiver, and that's a kind of non-dynamic, passive concept of education. Whereas gratitude can really re-energize that dynamic, and so the student becomes the giver by giving back for what they receive, and the teacher becomes the receiver, so they're open more to what their students are giving to them, which is really wonderful.
Okay, this is why I just adore you, because we talk about like this delivery model, but what you're talking about, it's a participatory model. It's a mutual kind of give and take orientation, so that it sticks by the relationship and the being of who the educator is, who the students are, and the interconnection of it all.
Absolutely.
Gosh, we could spend hours with you.
Yes.
Okay, so let's keep going. Now, in your new book, you make the connection between how to be grateful even when we're resentful, right? Really important. So I thought maybe you could start by telling us the difference between gratitude and resentfulness to kind of position the two places.
Sure. So the really lovely thing about this is that gratitude and resentment are conceptual opposites. So thinking about it philosophically, where there's resentment, you can't have gratitude. Where there's gratitude, you can't have resentment, because they both cancel each other out. So that doesn't mean we don't have both states living in us at one time, because we often do. But when we're trying to be grateful to a student or a teacher, for example, if we can't do that authentically, it's often because we actually feel the opposite, which is resentful. So my whole philosophy is not about replacing resentment with gratitude, because that's just like putting a positive veneer over a negative situation, which is crying out for attention. my whole approach is about taking one step out of resentment, another step and another step. And then we can actually really deeply and authentically practice gratitude in difficult relationships. So it's easy to access gratitude where it's very, with kind of easy relationships, but I'm really passionate about helping us to access gratitude in difficult relationships.
And there's probably a lot of resentfulness right now because it's a difficult world for a lot of people, right? So there's probably a lot of resentfulness going on right now, and we can still tap into gratitude the way you're describing this process.
Yes, we can. And what the thing is that resentment eats up our gratitude. It makes us forget everything that we were given in the past. So gratitude has this really, if we pay more attention to gratitude, it has this really wonderful amplifying effect where it helps us remember the good that we had in the past. So all these fractured relationships that have come out of the debates and the pandemic, I think it's time for them to be healed, and it's time for them to be, for us to think about what we were grateful for in the past and go back to that, really.
You know, I'll go to the next question, but it just makes me think that if we want to make learning stick for everyone, it's not just this doing thing, the way you're describing this process, it's a knowingness.
Yes.
Right? I have to really know myself, and I have to understand how I'm operating or where I'm operating so I can be of service.
Yes.
Fully of service, especially during difficult times. That's what I'm thinking about as you're describing this.
Yes, and it's also a choosing process. Like we give our agency over to what we're resentful about, and we make the other person really wrong, and that's the whole purpose of resentment. And I really get it, because it's the emotion of justice, and we have to seek justice so that we can, and then our resentment is a way of saying, you know, this, I'm not going to condone that kind of behaviour. But often we're actually hurting ourselves more than the other person who's quite likely moved on.
Yeah.
So, and what resentment makes us feel is that we have no choice in how we're going to present to the world. We have to hold on to this. So my thing is that we need to outsmart resentment, and we need to recognise that we can choose our attitude, and choosing gratitude is a really, really powerful way of saying, I'm going to do things really differently despite being wronged. So it's also a humble act.
Wow.
It's full of humility.
Wow.
Because we're waiting for the other person to do the apologising, you know.
And we don't need to do that when we're thinking in this direction. We can make a decision, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Well, let me ask then, you allude to this, but how then can we be grateful even when we are resentful?
Yes. I think deciding that we want to is a really big step, and naming up this murky, lingering, ruminating feeling that we're carrying around with us all the time, just giving it a name and acknowledging it, that yes, I have resentment. And it can be about really mundane, everyday things that, and we feel like we shouldn't feel resentful because there's so much bigger things to worry about in the world. But to acknowledge that we do feel resentful and that is a thing, and that can be a really enabling process to do something about it, because it's often hidden by nature. We want to present as a really grateful person. Good teacher is a grateful person.
Yeah.
But to get real about it is a really powerful first act. And then to recognise the two causes of resentment, which are to be made to feel inferior or broken expectations, and to then move more into what gratitude can give us in terms of resilience and building up what we can be grateful for, maybe outside the relationship first, and build our capacity and our resilience before we can actually then tackle the difficult relationship, and making sure that we do it one relationship at a time.
Wow.
Not trying to do, not go to the eye of the storm or the high hanging fruit, you know, just to choose one relationship at a time, step by step, practice by practice.
Makes me think too, so often we're just so, as educators or presenters or teams or leaders, busy, and you actually have to slow down to kind of get a sense of where am I and how do I feel? What are my emotional states to be able to do this practice?
Yes, absolutely. And it's not a quick fix. So
darn it.
Yeah,
darn it.
Darn it. Yeah, it's not just like you do one thing and it's all done.
Okay, well, I've got time for one more question. I really wanted to ask this question of you. So one of our core values at Unleashed Learning is equity and inclusion. If we want to make learning stick for everyone, this is a core value for us. And in your book, you talked about thinking about this cross-cultural difference in gratitude, right? That we have to think about this maybe differently than how we do. So I thought maybe you could ask us or tell us a little bit about this idea of a cross-cultural difference in gratitude.
Yes, well, the most respectful way to express gratitude to someone, and I think about gratitude as an action, not just how we feel. To express gratitude to someone, we need to do it in a way that's meaningful to them, and because we often tend to express gratitude in a way that's meaningful to us, and that can often be a seed of resentment. So just taking it into a classroom, for example, if you're with an Indigenous Australian student, they have in many of the Indigenous country languages, they have no word for gratitude because they don't need it. It's part of the interconnection and inter-sharing and things like that. So they often think this gratitude that we need is white fellas' business, and they don't want to know about it really. They think it's superfluous. But that doesn't mean they don't have gratitude or need gratitude. We just need to find ways of doing that. So a Western teacher in an Indigenous classroom could make friends with the elder, or go and make a relationship with the elder who's looking after that child and go and thank the elder. So that's just one example of, and so the cross-cultural understanding we have about how people express gratitude and how they express resentment in proactive ways is a really great way to get to know another person.
Wow.
Because it's so much part of the fabric of who we are, and as teachers it's a really important aspect.
Gosh, we have to know who we are, who our learners are. We have to think about inclusion, what that looks like. And it's really a relational kind of process to do this kind of work and to do it well.
Yeah, it's totally relational. And gratitude is a totally relational concept. Wow. It's not just about making ourselves happy, it's about how we can give back in ways that are meaningful to the other person. And that's what will bring about transformative schools. It's not just going to the school, feeling grateful as a teacher. It's much more about how can I give back? Not necessarily in ways that are reciprocal, but I feel grateful to be teaching in this school, so I'm going to go into the school and greet the students with a heart of gratitude. That's gratitude. But if we just go in feeling grateful, that's only halfway there.
Okay, well, this is what we want to do. We always ask the audience a question, and we've got an idea for you. So we want to know what is the way you express gratitude? So what I heard you say is there's different ways people receive it, they participate in it. So we want to know, how do you share gratitude? And some of the best conversations take place after the episode. So what we're going to do is the best comment is going to get a copy of Carrie's new book, and we will mail that to you wherever you are in the world. So Carrie, I don't mean to overstate this, but I am grateful for the work you do.
Thank you.
For the work you do for our world in so many kinds of ways. So thank you for being here. And thank you for the work you do for our world. We are cheering you on. We need you more than ever. And we'll see you next time on Unleashed Learning TV. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Thank you.